And one. Well, hey, Dave Melinda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you this week. You guys, I got a brutal question. I try to make them fun, I try to make them light, but this one is probably not making that list today. But it's one of these that is really, really going to help us understand some things in life. So, three words of a question that's like just rocked me. And I'm like, I got to get this guy on the show because somebody that asked this question definitely has a story to tell. So the question is adversity optional? And I'm like, can it be optional? I'm hoping it's like a college course, one of the elective courses, that I can pick and choose adversity when I want it, if I want it, how much adversity. And so I want to unpack that today with a new up and coming author. Congratulations. I'm honored to be hanging out with Brett Eaton. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing amazing, Dave. I appreciate you having me on. This is an honor, and I'm excited to have a great conversation with you today, man.
Absolutely. And you're owner and founder of Brett Eaton LLC. So fill me in and fill us in around the world right now on what Brett Eaton LLC is.
Yeah, so I've worked for myself for the last 10 years, coming up on a decade, which is a huge milestone and something I'm actually been reflecting on and celebrating. But about 10 years ago, I stepped away from my first career, which was in the fitness industry. I had spent kind of the first 8 years of my life, went to school for exercise science, so came right out of school doing exactly what I wanted to do, which was help people get healthier. I wanted to help people avoid a lot of the problems and issues and, some of the drastic changes that can come with not taking care of your health. So I tried to get in front of that, and also for myself, weirdly enough, it was accountability to make sure that my own health was a priority and made sure that,
Sure.
kind of went down the path of brutal accountability of, hey, if I'm a trainer, if I'm helping other people, if I'm working in fitness, I need to make sure that I look the part and walk the walk, not just talk the talk. So I shifted into high performance coaching, and that's what I still do today with individuals, with companies. And then, my main thing is professional speaking. So professional speaking to different events. I love working with entrepreneurs, which I love you focus on here. I just think they're usually growth minded. They're open. They're looking for that 1% to get better. And then that's where the book came in as well. And that's been the last 2 years of a project, which I'm so excited to have that out in September.
Awesome. Yep, that's coming out here pretty quick. We're super excited to be on the front end of that to help anyone listening today to go and grab themselves a copy, and we'll talk more about that later. But there's a common um, phrase, do as I say, not as I do type of thing. And you just mentioned that accountability for yourself that, it's hard. I don't know, again, if for you, how your journey's been, but entrepreneurs tend to want to be in business for themselves because they really don't want all these people around them telling them what to do. They don't want to work for the man. They don't want to, do all this stuff. And then they realize that it's kind of a lonely journey. And so I'm just curious, in your world, how do you handle the accountability now? Do you have coaches? How does that work for you? Just if you could share that with our listeners.
Yeah, I think that's such a great question because the main reason why people want to work for themselves or start a business is usually the biggest thing that prevents them from being able to do that, which is accountability. When we
Yep.
work for somebody else or we work in whether it's a 9 to 5 or some more traditional role, there is built in external accountability everywhere. And
Right.
and I talk about this in the book of with work, you want to get your paycheck, you don't want to get fired, you probably want to get promoted or a raise at some point, and you also have a team of people waiting on you to do your job so that they probably can
Right.
do their job. And then all of
Yep.
a sudden we step into this entrepreneurial world where great, nobody's telling me what to do, nobody's telling me where my deadlines are, nobody's telling me how to run my business. But oh wait, nobody's telling me how to run my business.
Right.
And I find that a lot of people struggle when they try to run their business or work for themselves with an employee mindset.
Yep.
And what people need to adopt is the CEO mindset. So to answer your question is I definitely still work with coaches. I have worked with coaches ever since actually before I got into coaching. Currently I'm working on working with a coach that is specifically for speaking, building my brand and having a great book launch. So I love different coaches. I've had business coaches, I've had personal coaches, I've worked with
Sure.
therapists. I just love the accountability and I love having somebody kind of in the foxhole with me personally. And I believe
Yep.
that if I'm working on myself personally, it'll always translate to my business. It'll probably translate to my relationships and my health as well. So
Sure.
accountability is a big piece that people don't think they want until they don't have it. And then all of a sudden they realize how important it is.
Yeah, and this is one of the big blind spots. My next book I'm working on is on business blind spots, and this is a big one where people don't think they need, any type of accountability. And it doesn't need to be professional like us. It can be a CEO roundtable. It can be, just people that are kind of watching. It's like a coach on a football team or any sports team. They're watching things that we on the field can't really see. So I think that that's a really great nugget right there. So for people listening, if you struggle or you resist that accountability, you may want to just kind of sit with it for a little bit and understand why. And I'm just curious on your end, Brett, did you ever in your career resist it, or was it always easy for you to embrace?
Playing sports growing up, I started to realize how impactful accountability could be. And there's multiple ways of accountability, external accountability. It could be from one person, it could be from a group of people.
Right.
External or community accountability can be a great thing. And honestly, there's been so many studies that prove that we would rather fit in than do something great even. So accountability is a really important part. And where people go wrong is they think when I talk external accountability, that means that I don't want you to do anything internal. Oh, forget about internal accountability, put all your eggs in the external accountability basket. That's not what
Yep.
I'm saying. But what I am saying is to get started in something, external accountability is incredibly, incredibly important. And I would
Okay.
rather somebody have loads of external accountability or different layers of external accountability while they continue to build and flex that muscle of being able to do it internally. Whether
Sure.
that's building the discipline or building the flexing the muscle of when I say something, it really means something. The deadlines that I set for myself actually mean something. That is where a lot of people will find themselves moving faster when they have that blend of both external, but I'm still going to flex the muscle and continue to build and grow my internal.
Sure, that's awesome. And for people listening that haven't jumped into the journey of entrepreneurship yet, just wait until you get your first customer, because when you get your first customer, your accountability kind of goes through the roof because you have to now be accountable to them. I laugh when I talk to people and they're like, it must, like we were talking about before we jumped on, it must be nice, where you can lay on the beach and do a couple hours of work on the computer and pick up a ton of cash and nobody is telling you what to do. And I'm like, that's like the opposite because, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, somebody calls because they're in crisis mode, one of your clients. What are you going to do? Let them go to voicemail? I mean, it just it's funny because that to me is the epitome of the accountability is having multiple clients because they're the ones that are going to call the shots. And I'm just curious if that's just me or you kind of share that same belief from a customer perspective.
I do believe that I agree with you on that. I do think that there is a misconception of what especially the early years of running, your own business is. And I remember that first year, and I just put up a post on social media talking about this exact thing of this first year of business. Everybody, my friends, my family, my mother, they couldn't wait to ask me the one question after that first year. And that question was, Brett, did you make more working for yourself than you did? And my
Yeah,
answer was no. I made about 15 grand less that first year. But what
right.
nobody was asking me, and this is where I started to learn the importance of defining success for yourself, but nobody asked me the other important questions. Brett, did you have more fun this year? Yes.
Yeah,
Brett, did you enjoy this year a lot more? Did I get to see my family more this year? Did I get to, did I have more freedom and flexibility to work when I wanted, when I wanted? And what that meant is I actually worked way more that first year for myself, but I didn't
sure.
mind working on the weekends anymore because I was calling the shots. I didn't mind
Right.
working late because I was calling the shots. So all of a sudden that changed. And that's where I started to realize, wow, nobody really knows what success means to Brett except for me, because everybody thinks success is all about money. And
Right.
yes, Don't get me wrong, Dave. I certainly didn't want to like be losing money every year. And luckily we got on the other side of that pretty quickly.
Sure.
But
Yep.
it showed me that, hey, I have to be sure, the success for me is a lot more things than just money. And
Yep.
that was the first time it highlighted, hey, if I start chasing what everybody else thinks success is, I'm probably going to be pretty unfulfilled on this journey.
Well, and that's just such a sad litmus test, how much money did you make, I mean, and we speak, you and I both speak around the country, and there's this high when we just got a couple nice engagements this week, and people are excited and we're excited, and there's that high there, when you successfully secure it. But that's just like the getting out of the starting gate. There's so much more there. But boy, I don't know about you, but it's so darn fulfilling to be standing in front of a group and somebody says something like, I never thought of that, or I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for you. I mean, there's certain things that, 10 grand, 50 grand, whatever you charge to speak, that it just, there's certain things that just don't match that, internal fulfillment. So I'm glad that you shared that. It's just so powerful to find something else. And like you said, Brett, if you are motivated by money, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the research shows that most people are not motivated purely by money. And I'm just curious if you kind of found that same thing in your journey.
Yeah, I have. And I honestly, Dave, there were times when I got caught up in the what am I chasing, right? And chasing more money because more money got you more attention and more attention got you more status and more status made it feel and look like you were doing better. And
Yep.
that's where like social media is the best thing and the worst thing because it can make somebody look like they're not. And also sometimes it makes you feel like you're doing better or maybe worse than you actually are. But
Yeah.
for finding what that is, and I, don't let's not fake this here. Like having money will make things easier. It'll give you more
Sure.
options. It'll
Yep.
there's a lot of great that can come from it. But if you're just chasing that, what happens is when is enough enough? And a question that I actually learned from my wife that she likes to ask a lot of people is, what is the number? What's the
Yep.
number? And a lot of people just want more, but they don't actually know how much they need, and they don't know what they need it for. We just
Yeah.
live in this world where we need to have more this, more. And what happens is that's what usually leads to unfulfillment because we get the next thing, the next accomplishment. And actually, Dave, I was working with a client who, for a year and a half, we worked together trying to get to this big financial accomplishment for him, and we worked really hard. We made a lot of changes. We sacrificed for it. We got it. And this is where I started to learn as a coach. Hold on a second. Like I helped this guy get to this big accomplishment. The success and the celebration lasted about 3 days. And on Monday, he was busier. He had more responsibility and he was spending
Yep.
less dinners at home with his family. And all of a
Yep.
sudden, I started to be like, did I mess this up? Like, did I steer him wrong as the coach? But,
Yep.
in reflection, he wanted this. He told me he wanted this. So my job is to help him go get it. But what we learned together is a lot of entrepreneurs are chasing a feeling. We're
Yep.
chasing a feeling that we often think will come at the end of some monetary gain or some number. But
Yep.
oftentimes that feeling is something that we actually need to change into how can we feel that more often? How can we feel
Right.
that daily, weekly, monthly? How can we feel that feeling that we're chasing now? And then what happens is we'll feel a lot more excited when we get to the end. But we got to celebrate those little wins. And we also got to find ways to, oftentimes this big one accomplishment, this big one goal or deadline is not
Yeah.
going to give us the feeling. It's fleeting. And now all of a sudden we're left with, well, did I enjoy the journey to get here or not?
Yeah. Yeah. If you're chasing likes and views, that's kind of a bummer. I mean, that's to me again, if you are great, that's and you're dialed into that. I just realized that it just like it's so funny when you look at LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever your social media preferences and you start monitoring, or like even the podcast, we don't even look at all here for this. We never look at how many people, Listen Notes said we're in the top 2% of all podcasts in the world. I don't know what that means. I don't care. I just, it must, I mean, it can't be bad, right? But it's just like, I don't watch that stuff because I don't know the right number. Is 100,000 the right number? Is a million views, likes, clicks, whatever? And you can get so caught up in that. Do you find a lot of people that you run across that are using the wrong scale for trying to find happiness?
Yes. And believe it or not, coaching this for as long as I have, even I've found myself at times getting caught up in the scoreboard, and
Yep.
what scoreboard am I looking at? And even this happened to me a little bit last year of a lot of changes happened in our life that were amazing. And all of a sudden I started kind of judging my scoreboard based upon the circle that I was in or what was around me. And all of a sudden it was, well, how many speaking events did I get? Well, how far is the book coming along? Well, how much did I make this quarter? And all of
Yeah.
a sudden I knew it was happening. And I was like, man, hold on a second. I help people with this. And even I'm getting caught up because it's just so easy
Yep.
with the scrolling and how much stuff this is just put in front of our face that all of
Yeah.
a sudden we get caught looking at the wrong scoreboard. And it took some separation, and it also took a little bit of, again, I talk about the phrase redefine success, of
Yeah.
really getting clear on what does a successful day look like for me. And when I really like gave myself some space and time to think about it. Yes, I love having a productive day, Dave. I love, like you said, I love signing a new speaking event or, selling a book. Those are great days, but it doesn't mean that if I don't do any of those things, I can't still have a great day, with my wife. I can't still have a great
Yeah.
day playing with our, 1-year-old puppy. I can't still have a great day, kicking back with family and friends and having a day where I don't touch my phone or my computer. Like those are also can be great days. And when you give yourself a lot of opportunities to have great days instead of just one rigid, structured, scheduled way to have a great days, you're going to find that you have a lot more fun and a lot more great days in your life.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, and I want to jump back. That was our introduction, everybody. No, well, it was awesome. Thank you for sharing that stuff. I want to, we, as we talked about before we jumped on, Brett, we have a lot of people that are watching and listening from around the globe right now that want to hear the journey about going from corporate America or corporate whatever country you're from into doing your own stuff. So you were a bouncer, and then you transitioned, as you said, into the fitness world. What was that transition like from going from corporate America into owning your own business? If you can kind of share that journey, we'd love that.
Yeah, well, being a bouncer was in college, and that was short-lived because I'm 5'11" and I'm about 175, and I don't know if you know about anything about people who hang out in bars, but usually they're a lot bigger than me. So, but I mentioned that because it was where I really learned a lot about confidence and the
Sure.
influential power that it has. Because I was the guy that would go in first, and I'd say, Dave, please stop doing that. Trust me, you'd rather deal with me than some of these big guys who are coming next.
Yeah.
So it gave me a lot of confidence to say, okay, how can I still, be successful in this role?
Sure.
But after about 8 years in fitness, it wasn't that I didn't like what I was doing. I just really didn't like how I was being told to do it. And I got to this feeling of I had all these great ideas that I wanted to implement and try and new strategies that I wanted to try out with my clients and with our gym and with the region that I was working with. And there was just so many hoops to jump through and everything took so long and we have to check through this and make sure that we run it by corporate or whatever. And it just got to the point of I saying, I know that there is potential in me that is untapped. I know that I have some natural gifts, and I've spent a lot of time growing the skills that I have to help inspire people to, not from like a diagnose standpoint of a doctor, but I loved figuring out the puzzle of somebody and how they worked. Were they internally motivated? Were they externally motivated? Did they get, excited by numbers? Did numbers freak them out? Like figuring
Sure.
that puzzle of a human out. So I finally said, you know what, this is my shot. I have an opportunity to step away and try this. And really what helped me was thoroughly going through the worst case scenario. And at that time, and this may sound, egotistical, but I really felt like I was a phenomenal trainer. And I said the worst case scenario is that I could probably walk into any gym in America and within a month or two I could probably be the best trainer on their staff. I knew sales, I knew customer service, I had great people skills. I also was like obsessed with learning about the body, so I was always learning and gaining new skills. So once I said that, I said, okay, Now I know what my worst case scenario is, and it's actually not that bad. I could go back and do that. So let's take the leap. And that was when I first started out. And I started out, I was starting to coach clients. I was still training, clients outside at a local high school field just because I was trying to, pay the bills.
Sure.
I was starting to take some speaking courses, and I was starting to kind of build this personal brand. And for
Sure.
me, I was like, hey, I'm going to start taking social media a little bit more seriously. I'm going to start taking the coaching that I'm doing more seriously, creating processes, creating strategies, things that I could replicate with people. And that's really how I kind of stepped into that. And, you getting through that first year, even though I made less, I was like, hey, we're going to celebrate the heck out of this. I made it through
Yeah.
first year. I didn't have to
Sure.
go back. I didn't have to go back to work for somebody else. So then
Right.
year two, you just start to work a little bit, still working hard. And I think another misconception, I'll throw this in there since we already talked about one, is people always say work smarter, but work smarter, not harder. But I don't think that you can actually work smarter until you work really hard. When
Yeah.
you work really hard, you now have more data on what actually working smarter looks like. But to just start out and somebody's like, I'm not going to work hard, but I'm going to work smart. I don't really think that that works. I disagree with that notion. And I
Sure.
actually think the only way to work smarter is to first work really hard.
Sure. Wow, that's awesome. And I think that as we tell people when we talk about this, there's no right or wrong way to transition from corporate to owning your own business. So it sounds like you kind of you had both running at the same time for a while, Brett, where you were doing paying the bills and then working your new business as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was a 2-year process for me. The first process was actually a demotion. And I was the regional director of fitness, and I demoted myself back to a personal trainer. And I demoted myself back to a personal trainer because even though it was going to take some money out of my pocket, it gave me something more valuable at that time, which was time. It gave me control over my schedule. So what I did is I packed my schedule working like 12-hour days, 4 days a week. But then that gave me a 3-day, I don't even want to call it a weekend, but it gave me 3 days to then solely focus on growing my own business. So it
Sure.
was basically like 7 days a week for a while, but it was
Yeah.
4 days in
No.
the gym working nonstop to create those 3 days of time for me to then work on my business. So, and then the second year, my goal was if I do this right, I'm going to have 1 year of kind of managing both. And then that
Yep.
second year, I was going to fully step away, put my 2 weeks notice in, which I did. And again, I think having deadlines is crucial, but it was a really great feeling to be like, okay, I've spent a year. I know I can do this on the side, and let's go full in.
Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, as we say every week, we talk about this. There's no right or wrong way. We had a guy, Brett, that got married and 6 days later quit his job, came home, didn't told his wife, "Hey, I quit my job." He had no idea what he was going to do. So he's like, I don't recommend that. We don't have a right or wrong way for this. You might feel that you can do your side hustle for a number of years. It might be permanent. You might just quit corporate and start the next day. Again, it's being intentional with it, I think, is what's important. And that's what I heard from you, Brett, is there was a 2-year plan. It was very intentional, and you were successful in moving that. So that's awesome. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to unpack those 3 words we talked about at the beginning about adversity and is it optional. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm honored to be hanging out with Brett Eaton from Brett Eaton LLC, owner and founder. Oh my gosh, this is so much fun talking about this. Um, to really help people listening get a grip on where they are in their journey. But you had some adversity in your world, and it was like it really hit me when the question was, is adversity optional? Because I'm not a huge fan of it. I'll just, I'll speak on behalf of most people listening. Very few people are like, yes, it's a major adversity day today. I can't wait to get to work. I'm going to get to work early. There's going to be a ton of adversity. I can't wait to do it. So tell me your thoughts on adversity for yourself. How do you see it in your world?
Yeah, I don't think it's optional at all. And I think that there are different types of adversity. Just like, with the title of the book, Uncomfortable Either Way, there is different types of uncomfort, right? And where adversity will come from is there is purposeful uncomfort or purposeful adversity, and then there's the kind that we avoid. But what happens is oftentimes when we avoid problems or we avoid issues, they don't disappear. They actually get bigger. And the adversity that, when you walk in and there's, say there's a problem at the office and you got to handle it, or there's a problem with a client. Well, what happens? There's adversity there. But what happens if you're like, I don't really feel like doing that today. I'm going to push that off. Okay, I'm going to push it off a week. I'm going to push it off a month. Now, all of a sudden, a simple conversation might turn into a blowout, or it might turn
Yeah.
into something being so bad or resentful that, a relationship needs to end.
Yeah.
So that is where, the subtitle of the book is why choosing hard is, why choosing easy is making your life hard, is the more that the comforts around us. And like you said, with the microwave and Netflix and, delivery, it's like we don't even have to do some of the normal,
Yeah.
discomfort of things that we used to have to do. That's great. And trust me, I'm not this guy who says everybody's life should be, uncomfortable and miserable from the time you wake up to the time that you go to bed. But I do believe that life has gotten very comfortable for us, and it can create this complacency that if we don't now actively seek out discomfort, we're losing a lot of opportunities to grow. We're losing huge opportunities to overcome challenges. Where if you want to, dive into confidence, the biggest factor on confidence is our ability to overcome challenges and our confidence that we're going to be able to solve problems and fix things. That is where a lot of that comes from. So I don't believe it's avoidable, but it just is your choice. Are you going to face the uncomfortable that comes with change, that comes with growth, that comes with moving forward in your life, or are you going to come with the avoidance and the complacency that often comes with a ton of regret?
Sure. Well, and I'm a black and white thinker, so I wrote down these two words that are kind of like opposite of what you just said. Is do you want growth or comfort? I feel like those are kind of, opposite of each other at times. You can still grow and be comfortable, but generally it feels like growth comes in those discomfort times. And I don't know about you, but I'm sometimes so dialed into the discomfort that I'm not seeing the growth. I'm not seeing what's going on around me. So, how do you help somebody that has that vision where they're looking at what's going on rather than what it's going to do for me in the long run?
I have a line that has really changed the way I view adversity, and the line is adversity now, advantage later. And if I don't have any tattoos, Dave, but if I did get one, it might be that. It might just be that, because to me that is if I look back on my life and say, when were the major moments of growth, or where were the most transformational moments, whether they were positive or negative transformations, they still were transformational. It's adversity. They're always tied to some adverse moment where there was some challenge, there was a setback, there was some big moment of adversity. And if I look long enough down the line, I found the advantage that it's given me. And I feel like, an advantage is funny, because an advantage is one of those things where if you feel like you have an advantage over me in some competition, say we're playing chess and you feel like you have an advantage over me, whether it's truthful or not, or whether I believe you have that advantage or not, it's still beneficial to you, because it still is this moment of, hey, this is actually going to help me.
Sure.
So I think that if you can understand that when you're in the adversity, and I challenge the listeners at home to look back over maybe the last big moment of growth that they had. Think about the last time they had to make some big decisions, or a big change in their life happened. Think about what the adversity was, and now really try to think about the advantage that it's given you. What are you more prepared for if something were to happen again? What skills did you gain during that time? What did you overcome that has maybe given you confidence in that type of situation or moment again? So I really believe that, now when I face adversity, it doesn't mean, let's not confuse it, Dave, that it's like it's all super fun now and Brett loves adversity. No, I'm human too, and I get frustrated by the little things sometimes as well. But I do know that when I'm sitting in the adversity, I might not be able to pinpoint where the advantage is at this moment, but I know that if I can just keep moving forward and I can get through this and I can get to the other side of it, there will be an advantage, and it will help me and it will serve me.
Well, and you've used the word confidence a few times, and so I'm just curious if you have any tips on how to help the listener be more confident, because that feels like that's an important part to being able to understand and deal properly with adversity. So, any tips on how to help people feel more confident?
Absolutely. I have the core four for confidence, which is four ways that we can build confidence. The first one is repetition. And, think about this podcast, for instance. I bet now that you've done hundreds of episodes and are, the number two ranked podcast, I bet you are pretty confident when you jump on here. You're meeting me, you're meeting a new guest, but I bet you're like, this is going to be a great episode. Why? Because I have a lot of repetition under my belt. So
Sure.
repetition is the first place where we gain confidence. And for anybody out there who's saying, man, I really wish I was more confident in this area or that area, my first initial challenge would be get more reps. I guarantee you get more reps, you will be more confident in that area. The
Sure.
second, the second core four preparation is preparation. And are we prepared for the thing that we say that we're going to do? Now, sometimes the way we get more prepared is we get more reps. Sometimes one and two work really simple together. But I
Sure.
think about going into a motivational talk, and preparation for me looks like I want to know what the event planner's main goal is. I want to know what the other speakers are talking about. I want to know who the audience is. I want to know the demographic. The more prepared that I am before I step on that stage. And then of course
Sure.
there's the whole, how many times have I practiced my keynote talk, and am I, totally confident in delivering the jokes in the most powerful moments.
Sure.
The more prepared you are for that, you are going to be a much better speaker, whether you're speaking to a room full of your 5 employees or whether you're speaking to a room full of a couple thousand. The second one is courage. I'm sorry, the third one. The third one now is courage. And that is, sometimes we are just need to do it scared. Sometimes we're just going to be terrified. We're just going to be scared to do it. And the confidence that we're looking for is not going to be available beforehand. There's just, maybe we can't prepare, or maybe we haven't had a lot of reps, but we still want the confidence. The confidence comes after the action. The action builds confidence is a method I write about in the book, and action builds confidence is basically the ABC method. We want the confidence beforehand, but you don't get it beforehand. It actually works in the exact opposite order. So if you do the action, you get the confidence. So sometimes we just have to be courageous and take the leap anyway and go, try it that way. And the fourth one is authenticity. And Dave, this is where I am a direct. I disagree completely with the fake it till you make it idea, because I
Sure.
think when you fake it till you make it, what you're actually doing is you're admitting to both yourself and the person you're trying to fake it to that you don't have confidence. And the more that we try to fake that, the more it highlights the fact that we don't. And when we are faking something, it's really difficult to be authentic as well. So
Sure.
by actually owning it and saying like, Dave, I actually don't know the answer to that. I'd love to find that answer. Or, hey, I
Yeah.
have a question here. I don't understand that. Would somebody explain that to me? Is actually where we build confidence. Instead of being like, I have all the answers. I know everything that you're supposed to say. I don't know what that guy's talking about, but I'm going to fake it anyway. That is when you start to become the most inauthentic. And not only do other people see that, but you see that. And that's where
Sure.
confidence disappears completely. So those core four are repetition, preparation, courage, and authenticity.
Wow, that's awesome. And I want to ask you about the courage piece because I saw that you are a skydiver, and this courage piece. I mean, I don't have a fear of flying, but I have a fear of jumping out of the plane. I haven't mastered that one yet. I want to before I too much longer in my life. But I mean, this is where again, some people are like, I wasn't afraid, and whatever, and it's like that's the inauthentic side. I mean, your brain is on your shoulders for one thing, and that's to protect you. So all the way up, your brain saying, don't jump, don't jump, don't do it. This is crazy. The plane is safe. Don't jump. You're going to die, right? Because that's what your brain's supposed to do. So were you, excuse me, do you struggle with courage when you're at that door and about to jump out?
Oh, 100%. I don't think it's very natural to sit at the edge of a plane with your legs dangling out and be like, nah, this is supposed to be what's going on.
First step's the biggest there, Brett.
Oh my goodness. And that stomach drop feeling that you have as you tumble out of the plane. That was my second time doing it. And I'll tell you, I must have not learned that much from the first time because it was just as terrifying. But that's one of those to me where action builds confidence. And not saying that you have to jump out of a plane to gain confidence, but when you take a big step of confidence, a big leap, what I love about moments like that is it raises your hard ceiling. And your hard ceiling is this ceiling that we have that dictates what in our life is hard. And to me, dangling out the edge of a plane and rolling out is like very hard, right? That was a like, oh
Sure.
man moment. Well, what it
Yep.
does is it resets your hard ceiling, and now all of a sudden making a tough phone call isn't so hard, right? It's not as hard as falling out of a plane.
Yep.
What about the workout that I have to do that I don't necessarily want to do today? It's like, okay, well, that's not as hard as falling out of the plane. And all of a sudden, it starts to reset what is hard for you. And I've done that a couple times in my life. I like to do one thing a year that really kind of challenges what I think was hard. A lot of times,
Sure.
I love when it's a physical thing, and
Yeah.
this while not incredibly physical, still took a toll on your body. But I like to do
Sure.
physical challenges, and I have always found that when I do something physical and I have to train for it and I have to overcome it, it really resets the hard ceiling. And all of a sudden, for the next couple months, I'm like, hey, nothing is as hard as going through that hard physical challenge. So I love that idea. But man, that's the courage piece. You just sometimes you have to do it scared, and when you do it scared, you realize, wow, what else am I not doing because I'm scared? What if
Yeah.
I just did it?
Yeah. Well, there's no optional adversity in jumping out of a plane. So, but it's interesting because we do a lot of work on talking people through their comfort zone. And, everybody has the comfort zone. And like right now, I'm totally in my comfort zone because, like you said, we've done this almost 300 times. You've done it a ton. So you're probably in your comfort zone. But I have run into people where they're like, there's no way in the world that they're jumping on this call today and going to get interviewed by me or talk to me. So everybody has their own threshold, so to speak. And so I think it's powerful when we can find that threshold, what that is. And I competitively swam since I was 5 6 years old, and there was one thing that everybody beat into my head the whole time that I was growing up was you don't breathe underwater. I mean, super easy, right? You don't breathe underwater. So then we go end up in a tropical island somewhere in the Caribbean, and they're like, hey, put this mask thing on and go underwater and breathe. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I can't do this, right? So I put this on, and for years and years, I would put my head under, and literally it would just block right at the top of my throat because all that training of don't breathe underwater. So finally, this year in the Caribbean, I don't remember what island, but we were there, and I'm like, I'm watching my grandkids do it. I'm like, this is embarrassing. I can't do this. So I jumped in, and I'm like, I'm doing it. It wasn't repetition because it was the first time. There was no preparation, but there was that courage there. And so that's what I think. I really like the courage piece because without that courage, you're not jumping out of that plane. I didn't put my head underwater and was able to breathe for the first time. So is there any that are on this list that are more important than others, Brett?
I think you nailed it. I think courage is the kind of the piece for all of it because you need courage for rep one, right? If you're going to do rep one, you also need courage to say yes to an opportunity that you get to prepare for. And I say get to, you don't have to prepare, but you get to prepare
Yeah.
for an event. When we get to go speak, it's an opportunity, right? I don't know if you get nervous, but I still get a
Sure.
little nervous before I step
Yep.
on stage. Not bad nerves, but almost the same nerves that I used to get like Friday night lights playing football. That like, oh man, it's a game day. Like I really have a great opportunity here. This is going to be
Yep.
really fun. And sometimes
Yeah.
nerves and excitement feel like the same thing. It's got to
Yep.
be courage. Courage is the one, courage and authenticity, because I think if you get misaligned, you can also really struggle to find confidence because one, you're chasing something that you're not sure that you want. You don't really know why you're chasing it. So you're kind of, that's where we get caught up in the money and the status game of, hey, how can I look as successful as possible? Or how can I look like I have it all together to impress somebody? But, on the inside, you're screaming, I don't have any confidence, right? So those two pieces are the ones that I think would move people forward the most. But confidence is
Sure.
also this thing that you got to earn. It's not this thing
Yeah.
that we get. It's this thing we have to earn.
No, that's awesome. And no pun intended, but as we start to land the plane today, I think it's important for us to realize that if adversity is not optional, we get to decide the depth of it because let's face it, jumping out of a plane versus putting your head underwater and breathing is a little different, a lot different. But in my mind, it was as scary, as intense, as exciting, as exhilarating, as rewarding. I had to take a picture of myself, and my grandkids are like, Grandpa, what's the big deal? We do this all the time. And I'm like, right here with you guys, because it's like, you guys are crazy, but I'm just curious, from your perspective, are you seeing adversity like every day? Is it something that you're looking for? Because like you alluded to before, I just want to make sure that we're not like, oh great, let's run towards adversity. I mean, firemen run towards the fire, we run away. So again, our brain is telling us get the heck out of there. So is it a daily thing for you? I'm just curious.
That's a great question. I think there are small daily uncomforts. Like for instance, to the listeners, I actually like pulled a little muscle in my back, which is not usually I stand for these podcasts anyway, but it's actually easier than sitting down at the moment. But going to the gym today, it would be one of those things where if I didn't go, I would have said, "Oh man, I'm getting on this podcast with Dave and I didn't exercise." And it's like I know my best energy is when I exercise and do this thing. So today I went and I just rode the bike. That was the thing I said, "Hey, I'm just going to ride the bike for a little bit, get some energy flowing, get a little sweat and come have a great podcast with you." But to me, those are the little adversities. The adversity that says like I would rather stay in bed a little bit longer than wake up early. I'd rather not make that rough, that tough phone call and have that, argument with so and so. I'd rather not bring up this thing that's bothering me with somebody. To me, those are your opportunities for the small discomforts, the ones that like say, hey, I'm just, I am who I say I am, and I'm going to continue to build. I do think we need to seek out some big ones. And, as entrepreneurs know, that's the big phone call, right? That's the big opportunity to pitch yourself in a big room. That's to put yourself in a room full of other entrepreneurs that are maybe doing better than you or are more successful than you. But great, that's a great room to be in because you can learn. I think putting yourself, we need a mix. We can't go too long without seeking it. And
Sure.
we can't do just small ones or just big ones. The idea of like, oh, I'm going to jump out of a plane every day or do something similar. That's not realistic, right?
Right.
Or maybe healthy. But we do
Yeah.
want to do things. And I love the line, I used to say to all my personal training clients, let's get out of your comfort zone. Let's get out of your comfort zone. And then I finally one day realized, why does everybody hate that line? And why do people look at me like I'm crazy? It's like, because that's not inviting at all. So I
Right.
changed it to let's expand your comfort zone. Oh, you never used to use kettlebells before? Let's expand your comfort zone. Oh, you've
Sure.
never gone, scuba diving? Let's learn how to
Yeah.
breathe underwater. Let's jump out
Yeah.
of a plane. Now, my comfort zone is I can't say that I'm going to like love jumping out of a plane if I ever do it again, but my
Yeah.
comfort zone is expanded where I have that experience now where somebody else may not. So that's where the confidence comes from, I believe, when you expand your comfort zone. Now more things in there you are comfortable doing again.
Yeah, that's awesome. And boy, I don't know about you, but way early, 30 years ago, probably before you were born, it was really hard to do the speaking piece. And now people are like, I could never do that. And I'm like, it doesn't, you don't even really, it doesn't really expand your comfort zone that much, because you're so used to doing it and and those muscles have been used so frequently that that does have a comfort zone expansion. And when I ask people, it's really funny when you have a talk on comfort zone and you ask people, hey, what's one thing on your list that you're working towards? What's one thing like right now you really wish you could do, that's outside your comfort zone? And when people share, I had somebody, Brett, that said, I really want to speak in front of this group. And I'm like, well, shoot, it was a lady. And I hand her the mic and I'm like, well, have at it. So she's looking at my screen and she's talking and she did it. And she was like almost in tears after. Well, it was a yearly event that I spoke at. The next time I saw her, she runs up to me. Oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe it. I'm speaking this year at this event. And that right there was so powerful because I'm like, if I had just a 1/64th of an inch of effect on that individual because of something that I did, that speaking opportunity at that spot was so worth it. And so that's where I love the adversity, because she could have easily just said, hey, I don't want to do it, I'm never going to do it, and it remains on the bucket list. So two questions, I'm let you go, is what's next on your bucket list?
That is a great question. So we did the jump out of a plane. I don't know
Where do
if
you go from here?
where do I go from here? No, this is going to sound maybe funny to some of the parents out there, but we are expecting our first child in December,
Yay.
and I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I am beyond excited, and know it's going to be an adventure of a lifetime. But that is also a bucket list. It's weird to say that's a bucket list thing, but that's always been a dream of mine. One, to be a published author, which, we've checked that box.
Yep.
And now this next one is going to be stepping into fatherhood, which I am just absolutely thrilled about. And I know that for a lot of people that wouldn't check the box of adversity or uncomfort or getting uncomfortable. But to me, it is going to change everything, right? It's going to be a
Sure.
life changer in the best of ways, and also I'm
Sure.
sure early on the most challenging ways.
Yeah.
So if you got any tips, feel free to send them
Oh,
my
yeah.
way. But that's really where my focus is. The other thing
Sure.
would be it would be one of those physical challenges where every year on 9/11 to honor the all the people that made the sacrifice. I actually do 911 burpees, and if you've ever done a burpee before, you know how miserable they are. And there's only so much training you can do, but it takes a long time. I
Yeah.
always am shocked at how hard it is. Halfway through, I always want to quit,
Yeah.
but I've done that for about 5 years now, and that is just kind of my yearly. It
Yeah.
raises my ceiling. It puts me in a state of gratitude. It also challenges me to see what I can do physically. So while not a bucket list because it's a yearly thing, it is still one
Sure.
of those hard physical challenges that kind of reset my year.
You probably secretly wish it happened on January 1st, so you only had to do 11 of them, you know? So
Exactly.
it's like,
Exactly.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Wow. Well, I tell you, so I don't know, does your wife listen to your podcast? Will she be listening?
She will. She usually we usually like to listen to each other. So she she
What's
learned
her
something
first
new
name?
about me that maybe I haven't told her.
Uh-oh. What's her first name?
Her first name is Anne.
And so if you're listening, and we're gonna name the kid Buck, okay? And it's gonna be short for bucket list. So you can pick the middle name, but I think Buck would be a good name. So
I
um
love it. I love it.
one last thing, I'm gonna let you go. What would your tip of the day be today, Brett, for people listening? Maybe it's something that we already covered, maybe it's something that still hasn't gotten out yet for you. What's your tip of the day?
It's going to be real simple and it's going to be really aligned. It's my message, my tip to them is that it's going to be uncomfortable either way. And everybody has that thing right now that they're avoiding or that area that they're like, man, I'm stuck. I just, people use that word all the time. And I really like to challenge them. Are you stuck or are you just unwilling to make a bold decision? And I feel
Wow.
like wherever somebody right now may be avoiding the uncomfort in their life, I want you to ask yourself, what are you actually avoiding and what is the risk of not doing that? Because a lot of times when we avoid uncomfort, that is what leads us to a much harder future and also a future of regret.
Wow, that's awesome. So coming out on September 9th is Uncomfortable Either Way is the name of the book, and the subtitle is Why Choosing Easy is Making Your Life Hard. So please, Amazon is the spot, your website, what's the best place for people to get a copy, Brett?
Yeah, it's out there on Amazon. It's available for pre-order. So when you're listening to this, it is already ready. It will ship out September 9th. Super excited about it. There's 21 strategies in there. So it's one of those books that you can read once, open any chapter, get something out of that chapter that you're reading. And there's a lot of actionable items in there. At the end of every chapter, there's an option for to do now, which means you can do it in 30 seconds before you even change the page. And then there's an action item that you can do in the next 24 hours. So I always hated books that waited till the very end, and then it's like that was
Yeah,
awesome, but what do I do? I'm very much an
right.
action taker, so at the end of this
Cool.
this book, you will have taken 21 steps of action.
That's awesome. And again, as we say every week, rather than jump into your next activity, there was a lot of stuff in here that you probably, some of us we glossed over, some of us we just are struggling with it. It's outside our comfort zone, but take a couple items away from this to really be able to change your trajectory in your life. Because again, if you just go back to your next podcast or go back to whatever you were doing, and this doesn't have any effect, that sure isn't on Brett. That sure isn't on me. We did our best to deliver a message that can transform you. And again, I think that if you, I'm enamored with the confidence of repetition, preparation, courage, and authenticity. So that was my great takeaway. So thank you, Brett, for delivering that to me. Thank you for sharing your world with us. And if people want to learn more about you, if they want to connect with you, if they have questions, maybe they want to hire you, maybe they just are curious, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Yeah, thank you, Dave. I really appreciate you having me on. This has been amazing. And for those who are listening, definitely give Dave a like and follow and a comment. Man, those are huge for the podcast. And Dave does a really good job here. For me, everything you can find me is pretty much bretteaton.com. Brett Eaton underscore is my Instagram where I put out daily content there. LinkedIn and everything is pretty much the same. And that's BRETTEATON.com. Yeah, Amazon is where you can find the book. I'd always really appreciate that. And I know it's going to transform a lot of lives. So, yeah, I always love conversations, looking for new events to speak at. This is kind of my season of growth here and pushing the business. So I appreciate you having me on and letting me share.
Absolutely. And again, if you want to learn more about how to jump out of a plane, Brett's the guy. Don't ask me about how to breathe underwater because it happened by mistake, but I'm going to take it. I did it. So I have a picture to prove it. So, but thank you, Brett, so much for unpacking this. I feel better about adversity now because I was, again, full disclosure, I was a little hesitant because sometimes, people are like, go seek adversity, wake up every day, go try and find it, stick a pin in your eye, whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, let's not do that, but let's
Yeah.
not run from adversity either, because like you said, if you got a tough call to make today, why not just hang up, get done with this call, and why not just make it? You'll feel so much better. And if one or two people across the world did that today, this hour, 45 minutes, this would have totally been worth it, because you have been able to cross something off your list. You're going to feel way better. Your day's going to be way better. So thank you again, Brett, for unpacking this. And can't wait to read the book, and can't wait to see what are you naming your kid Buck, or are we off? Did we lose that already?
I'm probably going to have a an adversity conversation about that with my wife. We'll see what she says, but
On, honey, listen,
I'll
he was
face that
poured
head
his
on.
soul out today. He would love if you would do Buck, because, unless it's a girl. You know what? If it's a girl,
Unless it's a
then
girl. It is a boy, so
okay.
we'll see
Well,
how that
hey, we're
goes. But
halfway
I'll be
there.
sure to let you know in December.
Awesome. You're already halfway there. So awesome. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to keep learning from you.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you, man.